to the editor's commentary for Danganronpa Ultimate. A lot of people have been asking for some sort of behind-the-scenes video or explanation for the things I did, and while I'm not practiced enough to make real tutorials, I was hoping to give some insight to my video and answer some questions that people had, because a lot of people were very curious, so I wanted to help y'all out. So let's just kind of delve into this. The most common question I ever get asked is what editing software I use. I edit all my videos in Hitfilm Pro, or at least I did edit all my videos in Hitfilm Pro. I'm currently switching to After Effects and Premiere because they're kind of the industry standard, but it's all the same core concepts as far as the programs go. Hitfilm Pro is sort of an indie VFX compositing software for Windows and Mac. I would highly recommend Hitfilm Express, which is the free version to Hitfilm Pro. It primarily lacks extra effects and things you could throw on top of videos. Like, I made this video in Hitfilm Express. Like, you have all the same controls, the same keyframing capabilities. They do tutorials on their YouTube page. I used Hitfilm Express for years. I didn't use Hitfilm Pro until last year, and then this year I'm going up to After Effects. So I highly recommend it. Highly recommend. How about I give you a basic overview of the core concepts of the kind of editing I do. I wouldn't consider this a real tutorial. If you want to learn this for real, I would look up actual tutorials. But this is like just to show you what you can do and like the basic concepts, so you realize, oh, okay, I want to learn. I want to get into doing that because I now understand, because it's pretty great. So you have your assets down here. Let's pull in Best Girl real quick. You just got like anything you import 2D images, just slap it on the timeline, and then you can get a background. I didn't name the backgrounds, they were pulled from the game, and I did not sort any of my assets because I am an idiot. So we just slap a background on there. It works in a layer system, so whatever's on top will be visible if they're both like 2D and on the same plane. Every layer has transform properties you can alter, such as the scale, position, and rotation. You can control them with these little sliders up here or down here with the numbers. I usually work with the numbers because I'm very precise. So let's scale up the background a bit. So now we have a proper background. Reset its position, 0, 0. It works on a coordinates-based system. So 0, 0 is the very center. And if you move it over on the x-axis, you can see the numbers moving on the x-axis. Similar for the y-axis. Once you start making things 3D, you will have a z-axis as well. That's when it gets real fun and exciting. Now, the basic concept to make anything happen is keyframing. Very, very exciting stuff. Here's what you do. So you got your timeline here. Here's our video. If we play this back, nothing is happening. It's just a static image. But, oh, program almost crashed. Oops, oopsie. That's what we do here. We save project. Make sure to save the project at least every 5 milliseconds, because if it crashes, you'll be very sad. So we're just gonna move Kaede over here, and we want her to move to the right side of the screen. So the little trick here is this magical thing called keyframing. You can keyframe nearly every property for any asset or any effect. So what you do, we're going to turn on keyframes for her position, and that creates a keyframe right here. And then we're going to move ahead to like 5 seconds or so, and then we're going to move her over here, and it will automatically create a new keyframe for us because we've already turned keyframes on for her position. Be aware that it will do that, because then you move her over here, you're like, actually I want her to be a bit higher up. Move her up. Oops, it's creating a new keyframe. Gotta be aware of that before you start making keyframes. So what Hitfilm will do, and what most video software will automatically do if they have keyframing, is interpolate the distance between these two keyframes. So between the two keyframes, it will mathematically figure out where she should be. So she'll move slowly from one to the other. Pretty great stuff. I'll give you a little trick early on. You want your movement to look a bit less static. Just slap on this little smooth keyframe button here for now, and then it'll start out smooth, end a bit smoother. I recommend doing that to start with until you learn what it's actually doing. If we go into the value graph here, I'm kind of stepping it up a little fast. Don't worry about it. So this is the value graph. So by default, you've got your two keyframes here. This red line represents her x-axis, which is the red arrow here. She moves from here to here. If we slap on that smooth keyframe, it does some mathematical graph stuff where it starts out slowly, then goes fast, and then slows down. And you can edit these keyframe or these handle points. If I slap them out like this, it'll start out real slow, go real fast, and then go real slow, like that. And that's pretty much the core concept of half the stuff in the video. You can slap this handle up instead of sideways, and then it'll go real fast and slow down. And she'll pop in. Half the things in my Danganronpa video just do this. The keyframes just look like that. They just go pop and then slow down. Very, very, very fun stuff. Now, if we were to get really fancy here, like really, I know a lot of you are like, I want to see, like, it looks 3D in some parts, and that's because it kind of is. Technically, it's like 2.5D, but might as well be 3D. So if we go to new layer here, create a new camera, we've got this camera here, and now we're seeing everything from the eyes of the camera. But these layers are still 2D. That's represented by this thing here. So we just slapped them from 2D to 3D plane. Now the layers are 3D. And if we were to take our camera and transform it just like any other layers, we got a little position here. We've got a Z-axis, which is forward and back. So we just move that. Now, and it looks like we're just scaling the images up, but we really are moving the camera back and forth. So to kind of show you what's happening here, let's take Kaede, get rid of her movement, and let's move her forward a bit on the Z-axis. We're not scaling her up, we're actually moving her towards the camera. So now, if we move the camera, you can see that parallax, that movement, because she's actually closer than the background is, and it gets a bit more visible if you were to go to like a perspective view. You can see there's our scene, there's our camera. There's our camera, and there's Kaede, and there's our background, and you can actually like understand. I recommend doing a 2 view. You click down here, view from 1 to 2, 3, or 4, and then you can switch these to the front view, the back view. Never use that. The top view, you can see here's the background, Kaede. That's how I work most of the time. And then perspective, if you just need to understand what's going on. There she is. It's all 3D. It's cool, isn't it? Keyframe everything. Make her move that way, that way, that way. Really what you want to do is keyframe the camera. So camera starts over here, and then in this part of the timeline, it'll start over there. So the camera will go, ooh. Great stuff. Great stuff. Then you want to get double fancy? How about we create a new light? I really like lights. I recommend looking up a real tutorial for stuff like this, but I set the fall off to curve because it's more realistic. That's kind of all you need to know. And you're going to have to turn up the reach quite a bit. Where did the light... Oh, the light... Okay, so see, if we go to our multiple views here, the light's like in the background. We need to move it over here. That's why the 3D views are very important, because you can't really see what's happening otherwise. So we're going to take our light, move it over here, and then move it up here, over here. Now, look at this. We've got like... It looks like there's a light. There's stuff happening. There's like, it's darker over here. I like throwing lights in, add some like contrast and some key visual like things to look at. Like, oh, she's important. I want her to be a bit brighter, the background a bit darker. It's a lot nicer looking if you just throw a light on there. The last core concept I'm going to show you is grade layers. Just slap a grade layer on here, and what's great about grade layers is they affect every layer below it. So say you wanted to make Kaede blue and the background blue. Well, you would, instead of putting like a color effect on Kaede and the background, you would put it on the grade layer, and then everything below the grade layer, such as Kaede in the background, will turn blue. And then if you were to put that in between the two, it would only, as you can see, it only affects what's below it, which right here. I'm pointing at my screen with my finger. I'm an idiot. People can't see me. So yeah, pretty cool, isn't it? Look at her go. Oh, that's the grade layer I'm moving. Oh, that's cool. You can actually move the grade layer, so it only affects from there to there. Look at that. That's cool. Blue on that side. No, yeah, stuff. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, when I'm starting a new video project, I make a folder for it in my videos folder. So this project was called the Danganronpa Ultimate Intro, and that was the name of the folder. Slap that in there so that everything you use for that project stays in that folder. You know it's in there, you know where it is. Very, very handy, because if your stuff's all over the place, like you've got pictures in your pictures folder over here and then videos and it gets like, you start to lose things. You're like, oh, I need to edit an image in a different program, and you don't know where you have it saved. It really helps to know where you have everything saved, especially when it comes to importing into the program. Keeping things organized is very helpful. Usually inside my folder, I'll have a folder for assets and a folder for exports. I have to be honest, the way in which I have made my videos in the past is a little bit dummy idiot smooth brain, because I'll like make a shot in a comp shot, I'll export it and then re-import it with the rest of them to compile them all together in a row. Really, I shouldn't be exporting it and then re-importing it. I should just be having the main comp read from the other comps, because that way I'm not compressing it a second. It's fine. I don't do it anymore. Don't worry about it. Shh, it's okay. Shh. Anyway, so because of that, you can actually see in my exports folder, I have every version of every shot I've worked on exported. So these are all the shots for the video. I think I cleaned up this folder a little bit. There used to be a lot more in here, but to save on space, I got rid of some shots that I had to export many times because I kept messing up on them. So a lot of people will ask me, like, how long did my video take to render? I don't really have an answer for that, because I rendered it in chunks and then put them all together at the end. So like all these shots are just separate videos. That is so loud. Turn that down. Turn down my volume. But because of that, I could show you some fun. You ready for some fun behind the scenes? Let's look at an early version of a shot. What did Makoto's shot look like in version 1.0? Mostly the same. They don't all change that much. That was different. Weren't bullets there. There was like a circle instead. I'm sure I forgot some other technical bits, and that's why I had to export it 5 more times for some reason. But some change a bit more than others. That originally got too close up. Had to change that eventually. The camera doesn't get so close. In this shot, the revolvers in the background, I like colored them, and they were like smaller, but they look a lot like fidget spinners, don't they? I didn't like that at all. No, can't have that. No, not good. This shot changed a bit as far as look goes. Kind of made that one look a bit better in the final. And this shot used to be way faster. Couldn't really tell what was going on. It was like that for a while, actually, and then I was like, someone watched it and was like, that was too fast. I was like, yeah. Anyways, so you have your exports folder. Anything you export, just put it in that. That way you know it's not something you're using in the video. That's what the assets folder is for. Assets folder will contain, I like to have subfolders. So if it's like a visual novel opening like this, you're going to have a folder for sprites. Every character sprite is in here. When I made my Steins Gate video, I had like, I downloaded from a website. It was like all the sprites, every version of every sprite, and I just had them all, so I organized them like this. For this video, I actually just went to like the Danganronpa Wiki and downloaded the sprites individually when I needed them, because that was where I could find the highest quality version of the sprites. Oh, are you ready for a fun fact? Let's go in for a fun fact. So every time I came in to the Danganronpa wiki to acquire Sprite, you would come up to this main page, and I highly recommend this tip if you're making your own Danganronpa videos. I guess, I mean, there might be places to get the sprites more easily. I had trouble. I needed like a sprite for every character easily. This was just the one-stop shop. They were all on here. So whenever you open up a sprite and look at the actual image, it's about this size, and in the video I do a lot of close-ups of characters, and sometimes you're a bit closer to the face. If you zoom in any more than this, it's gonna become pixelated. So I actually, for almost every character in the Danganronpa 1 and 2 games, I went to this tab right here, Danganronpa V3 Ultimate Talent Development Plan, which was Danganronpa V3's mini game where you saw all the characters from the previous games, because the sprites taken from that are actually just like noticeably slightly bigger, and you can get like it's from that to that, and it's I like compared the two up close, and this one's definitely higher quality. You can get a bit closer and it looks a bit nicer. So highly recommend the Ultimate Talent Development Plan version of most of the sprites is where you want to go. I didn't use full body sprites all the time because the half body ones were usually a bit higher quality. So you don't see many legs in my videos, and when you do, the character's usually a little pixelated, just a little bit. Anyways, you got your sprites. I recommend just sorting them by character because otherwise it's a huge mess, and usually they download with crazy names like this. So it's hard to sort out. I also had these files, which were taken from the Danganronpa 1 and 2 games. A lot of cool little pieces in here. I used them mostly for that opening segment, the comic booky segment. And you might think, there's some cool images here. Like, why didn't I use this? Why didn't I use this? That looks so cool. Well, it's because the images are pretty small. Like, it's only that big. And once you start zooming in, like, I can't really use that. That's why I didn't use too many of these. Mondo had one that looked really cool, and that's the specific reason as to why I used it for his shot. Also, I wanted to make his hair move, and it worked pretty well for that. I'll also sometimes have my audio files just in the main folder. I could put them in a sound folder, but I just kind of I usually only have one or two for the kind of videos I make. Any extra things like notes when I make a thumbnail, put that in there, just slap that in the folder. So yeah, I just highly recommend file organization because once you start making the video, you're going to need to know where things are, and there's a lot of things. Like you got all the backgrounds, all the sprites, all the different versions of every sprite that you have to keep track of. Any and every element is just hidden away in here. So when it comes to coming up with a shot, I don't really storyboard. I just kind of come up with half of it as I go. I know usually I'll find the music first for a video, and like that will drive most of it. If I don't have the right song, I'm just a bit less interested in what I'm working on. And then usually I'll have an idea of this bit will be the opening because that's when the music's slow. So I think about what I'm going to need to say in the video, some music credits, put my own name at the beginning, think about how I'll space those out. And usually I'll just have a vague idea. Like for this video, I knew, okay, the Danganronpa 1 characters are going to be from about here in the song to about here. And the Danganronpa 2 characters will be about here to here, and leave some room in between for some inserts, some just cool shots of stuff. And I might not know what those are. I think the one shot I had fully in mind from the beginning was the, transition from Makoto to Kamaru. That came out exactly as I envisioned in the beginning. It's for every video I have, usually there's one shot that is the reason I make the video, and it's I think of that, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I'll make this whole video for that one thing, and then just make up the rest as I go. Got around to Makoto here at the beginning. I'm like, okay, so we're gonna need to do a character bit. So the music kind of drove this bit. You'll notice in this shot, it really just kind of moves to the music a bit. I'm like, okay, 3 beats there. I need his name and his talent, and really I didn't need to put in his talent. I don't know why I put in anyone's talent. The other openings don't do that, but I started doing it, and so I didn't stop. And so that was a lot of work I probably could have avoided a lot of unnecessary text on the screen, but I don't know, I kind of went for it. So that's right, I'm the only opening to spoil everyone's talents. Oops. So yeah, it's mostly the music that drives it. I'm like, then there's two bass beats, we're gonna just kind of pop into him, and then there's another beat where nothing happens. I don't like purely empty segments of video where it just sits there. I could have just sat there on him, but I'm like, I want something to happen. I'm just gonna transition to him being distressed. So I just had some stuff fly across the screen and masked him from one to the other. So he actually has like 2 sprites in here, and I just kind of swap from one to the other. When the bullets pass, I just kind of have like, what's it? I think I animate a mask. Yes, the mask is just that, and it slowly moves across with the bullets. So that erases one of them, and then the other's just sitting behind it the whole time. So usually this is my step-by-step process to coming up with a shot. So I finish one character, and I'm like, all right, now I've got to do the next one. I don't even know where to start. So I'll just slap the character on there. I'll check their different sprites they have. I'll see what kind of options I have to play with, and think like, okay, what feels right for this bit, this part of the music, or these beats I can hit. What kind of things can I do? So you've got the character. I'll usually start by blocking out the elements. I'll just slap them all in. So I'll like swap them to 3D elements. When you do that, it'll make a character for you. It'll make a camera for you if you don't already have one. I'll kind of say, okay, usually I'll leave the focus character in the center. I won't move them. I'll just move the camera, because I prefer any new elements I drop in to start around where the main focus is, so I can just see them while I'm working on the video. So we'll just kind of move the background back and scale it up. And you might be thinking, like, it doesn't really look like it's far away. Usually what I do in the video, I'll either apply a blur effect to the background, like that, like a good old lens blur, or the camera actually has a functionality. You turn depth of field on. I could tell it to focus specifically on Chiaki, and then just turn up like the amount of blur and stuff. So that way, when the camera moves towards her, it will actually have like depth of field in the background. You see, it gets more intense when it gets close up. If you don't know what depth of field is, I'm sure it's more of a... You'll see a lot of photography tutorials about it. It's just kind of that background blur, in that little bit of focus you have. So let's say then I want the camera to be over here for this shot, because that looks nice. That's kind of what I did in the video, didn't I? It looked exactly like this. So kind of position the camera where I want it, and then I think about the movement. Well, I don't want the shot to just start here. Usually it'll depend on what the previous shot was. Some shots I transition with just like a flash of light. Let's say it was just like that. So this could kind of just start here, and I just want some vague movement. Like let's just say we want the camera to pop in. So it'll start kind of over here, down here maybe, and then we want it to pop in and slow down. Usually when it comes to timing, I'll just hit play and stop wherever feels right. So the camera pops, slows, and then stops about there. I'll just kind of, and then I can move the keyframes later if they don't feel right. And then, like I did earlier, we're gonna go into the value graph, give those handles with the smooth button, and then the way the handles work is a little strange. Like, if I move this one out, you'd think moving this one down would make that curve go down, but you actually can have to move it up. Just kind of mess around with it, you'll figure it out. It's a bit strange. So then it'll like pop down, just like wha. It'll start out fast, slow down. So there's our shot there. And you notice when we play, a lot of times these programs will do things to make your video render a bit faster when you're playing it, because if you have a pretty bad computer, it's going to struggle with some very basic things. So when you hit play, the background becomes clear again, but that's just because it's running it in like a fast mode for you. If you ever want to know exactly what your shot looks like, I hit this little button right here. It'll run a RAM preview. It'll slow down for a bit, but it'll add this light blue segment to your little timeline here, and that means that's like fully rendered. When you play it back, it'll play back real time, and you'll know that's exactly what that looks like. The moment you change anything about the video, it'll get rid of that though. So I usually just do a RAM preview when I'm gonna check if something's right. After Effects kind of does it automatically. It's a bit of a different process. So we've got our shot here, pops out. Let's say I want the camera, like she's visible there. I go back to this first keyframe. Maybe I want the camera to actually start a bit more. Now this is why you save. This is why you save your project. And this is why you choose programs that are so friendly and really helpful. God, I love Hitfilm. You people saving my projects for me. Look at you go. Oh, well, it didn't save my keyframing. It auto-saved a little bit earlier on, but that's fine. We just slap that over here. Whoops. So I think that's about the movement I want to have. And see, I always work on the movement first before I get crazy with effects. Usually I won't even have depth of field yet. It'll just be like, I'll just get the movement down first. Because once you start slapping on a bunch of effects, you're going to have a bit of a problem because the program is going to struggle to render everything. And then you start working on camera movement, you're going to have to like disable all the effects while you work on it because the frame rate's going to be so low you won't know if your movement's good or not because you can't load it. So I do all the movement first while it's nice, buttery smooth. That way I don't have to worry about temporarily disabling effects later. Just work on that smooth movement. She pops in. And I'll get into this later, how I made the crosshair I usually use, but let's go ahead and slap that on here. It's a little video file actually. So there's our crosshair. We're going to make it 3D, and so that puts it in like the center here, and we're gonna just kind of have it. So then we want the crosshair to pop in after. So the camera goes bam, and then I want the crosshair starting now. We're gonna get its position. We're gonna move it, say up and over here, and starting now, it's gonna pop onto the character. And I waited about that long, and then we're gonna take it from up here, drag it down there. And so then we're going to do the same thing with the keyframes. We're going to make them smooth, give it that pop that I love so much, and then pop, it pops in. And then I'm also, over time, going to keyframe its rotation. So from here to the end of the shot, I want the crosshair to kind of rotate like that, like it does in the video. So it pops in and spins a bit. So far we've got, well, let's do a little RAM preview from the beginning. I'm smart. And so camera pops in, crosshair pops in. And then you'd have like the name. I kind of forget how like the specifics of how I made the little name bars because I kind of copy and pasted from every previous shot and then just changed the text and stuff. I recommend doing that a lot. Saves a lot of time. No need to make something twice if you've already made it. Just copy and paste. Just steal. Very, very handy. But the core concept, you would make a new plane. Very handy thing here. It's just a flat box, just a flat solid color. It'll make it the size of your comp. It's just a plane, not like an airplane, but like just a flat plane. That's a geometry word. So you got your plane. We're gonna make it 3D. We're gonna transform its scale, and to make it like a bar, we're gonna hit this little thing here. We can make it to where we can change the width and height separately, and there we've got like a little name bar right there. So we'll put the name on that. Oh, we want it to be a different color. Well, you could change the color of the plane, or you could do what I did, use the same plane for every shot and just slap on a fill color. Make it any color you want. We want it to be like her hair color. You could use a little color picker. Boom, that looks more like her skin color. So there we go. And then we're gonna create a new layer, text. Achoo. And then we can make our text a 3D layer as well, and that luckily puts it right around where that thing is. So our text is there. We'll just kind of position it about on there, and you have like text controls. You'll learn this when you do real tutorials. You got like text controls. You can maybe change the font, do colors, stuff. So you put that on there. Now we're going to get into some advanced stuff. You could parent it to the plane, and that means when the plane moves, the text moves. Very, very handy. So the text starts here, and we're going to transform its position, and then over here, the text thing will just go pop. It'll slide in, so the text pops in like that. There we go. So there, I mean, we've got a shot going along. And you might think this looks like garbage. Well, I happen to know a lot of the effects in the program, so there are some secret things you can do. I'll tell you my most favorite right now. It is... I'm going to have to look up if this is a Hitfilm Express effect or a Pro effect. Anyways, so I'm having trouble looking that up, actually. So I'm going to show you a way I definitely know you can do in Hitfilm Express, is adding a little outer glow, a little shadow to the edge of everything. Usually I would use the outer glow effect, but that might only be in Hitfilm Pro. It's just a bit easier with that. But we could just take a drop shadow, put it on Chiaki here, and that kind of gives her, by default, just a little shadow behind her, which looks kind of nice. But I like just doing this. We'll make the distance from her 0, so it's like perfectly behind her. You can't see it. But then we just increase like the softness of the shadow, and then maybe make it a bit more visible. So that just gives her this slight like shadowy edge. And if you turn that off, you can really kind of see the difference it does. And then you can just take that and just put it on your crosshair as well. Look how much better that looks. Like the crosshair just kind of blends in with the background, and then just like bam, look at that. Maybe, and then you could say for that one, I want it to be a little less intense, but still definitely there. So turn down the opacity on that one, and then put it on the plane, and then put it on the text, and then boom, everything's just looking like so much better. Like if we undid all that, and then just you can really see the differences it makes. It's just little touches like that. And then when you start adding in stuff like the lights, that's kind of a cool effect. But you pull the light back. I said this earlier, I always switch the light fall off to curve because it looks way more cool and realistic. And then just kind of slap that back there. Usually I'll need a second light for the background because I put the background very far away. So I'll duplicate the light, go to views, move that light closer to the background, and look at that. Look at that. We just made that. Can you believe that? Look at that. Look at that. That's kind of cool. And now we've got a whole shot. Things happen. Things happen. So the most common comment I get is about the transitions. Everyone wants to know how I get from one shot to the other. And I did explain earlier that I make all the shots first and then export them and then re-import them. And I re-import them into this big comp here. These are like all of the shots lined up. So all the separate shots are here. You could still do this if you do it correctly, which is these. Let's say you make a comp shot, like this shot right here, composite shot 42. You would find it over here. Let's just search the number 42. You would take your composite shot, the actual shot, move it into here, and then you would stack the composite shots up. I just did this so that I could actually watch it in real time. I didn't have to render every shot live. I could just have a version where I could see everything. But due to that, technically it was compressed twice, but you can't really tell. It's on YouTube anyways. I'm not making a movie. This ain't going in theaters. So you have your separate shots. Usually I would start one shot out like this transition right here. Let's say you've got Makoto, and then it goes into this shot of Kyoko. So these are two separate shots. So the one of Makoto just sits there, like at the end of his shot, the camera will just wait there because it knows I knew I was going to transition. So I gave myself some extra space to work with right here. So let's go into Kyoko's shot. So in Kyoko's shot right here, we've got, her shot actually also included Sayaka's. That's all one shot. So we start with pure transparency. And I exported this as like an AVI file. so it would keep that transparency. But if you did this correctly and actually moved the comp in there, it would still keep that transparency and save you a lot of file space, because AVI files are huge. So it starts with that transparency, and that's where Makoto's shot would be, and then we move the camera in Kyoko. Oh, hold on. See a little bit of the name text there. Is that in the final? Hold on. Oh my, it is. Look at that. You can probably see that in the final video. See a little bit of incorrect. That name bar shouldn't be visible behind her there. Kind of messed up. Had it show up too early. So, like I did before, I would keyframe the camera, like with the other shots, but I would start with no background. And then the way I have the background kind of appear here, usually I would just mask it. You can use a mask to like draw a little square and say I only want this to appear inside that square, and then you can keyframe the shape of that square. So I would keyframe it from like over here to over here as she moves out. So it would move with her, and the background would be invisible outside the square, but visible inside the square. And so as long as you have that transparency at the beginning, then when you put the shots on top of each other, the transparency just goes through to whatever is underneath it, which in this case is Makoto's shot. So you have that nice smooth transition. Some other transitions were like light flashes, like that one right there. Usually I would have like one of my grading effects would be like an anamorphic lens flare. You can see it vaguely on stuff. It adds like some colored lines, like some light lines. That is a pro only effect, but I think you can look up some workarounds to do it in Express. There's a lot of things you can do in Express with the right workaround. Pro just kind of does it for you, which is its main thing. But I would just keyframe the intensity of the lens flare, so it starts out slow, speeds up, and then bam, it would hit like maximum, so it would just perfectly white. And then I would start the next shot, and it would be the same thing in reverse. The effect would just go back down. So then these shots, there's no transparency in between them. It just, this shot ends by going white, and that shot starts by going from white to nothing with I'll like keyframe like a lens flare or something and just make that intensity go bam and then back down. So just pop. Got it. Two different shots. Oh, actually, we could go back here. I did say these two shots are actually the same shot. I think if we go in here, you can see all these layers are for Kyoko's shot. All these are for Sayaka's. And so when the camera spins right here. Oh, you got a little bit of no background here. That's probably visible in the final. Once it kind of goes in between, I keyframed the opacity for every layer here so that they would slowly go invisible. And then for Sayaka's, I keyframed the opacity so it would slowly become visible. And so it just swaps between them. But the fun part is that I'm pretty sure all of Sayaka's parts are upside down. So here's like a perfectly flat frontal view of everything. And if we move ahead, there's everything moving. And there's Sayaka's section, which is the camera just flips upside down for the transition. And then I realized, oops, my camera's upside down, but I'm still doing one shot. So I could have made the camera go 360 maybe, but that amount of spin felt right. So her whole everything in her shot is actually upside down. I just had to flip everything 180 to work with it, which made it a little confusing. But there she is. For things like the fire effects, they're probably only in the pro version. They're just like kind of built-in fire effects. You can change different elements about it. You have to work with it a bit to make it look right, but still not. Making fire in After Effects, it's not kind enough to do it for you. You have to get a little more in depth. In Hitfilm, it was pretty easy. It was just there's an effect called fire. You put it on a layer, it makes that layer fire, and there's some other stuff you can change. And then I kind of keyframe the opacity of the fire. It goes 0, then bam, and then the camera goes forward. Like I think this might have all been one shot as well. Oh yeah, it is all one shot. So the transition, like all of Chihiro's stuff, just goes transparent or cuts out when the fire's blocking it all. Like right here, Chihiro's stuff would disappear and Celeste's stuff would appear. And then bam, it moves in and there she is. I did have a question about shots such as this, where you have 3 characters, each with their own, like, respective zones. Like, he's only in there, and his background, everything is only in there. His stuff's only in there. This is a fun effect. So, like, here's our shot here. It's all, like, one camera. This is all happening in front. I didn't render these pieces separately. I'm using an effect called Set Matte. Let me open this in Composite Shot 42 here to help explain this. Let's make a new plane. And so we've got this black solid here. Remember, we've got this just solid square. And I'm going to turn its opacity all the way down. And we're going to take the Set Matte effect and put it on Chiaki. Did that just do it? You might have to mess around with some of the other things in here to get quite the right effect. To work with transparency, you might have to change the blend mode and invert it. So we've got now our new plane here. She's only visible in that new plane. Like, her alpha matte is set to that plane. I use this effect for certain things. It's like masking, but it's just set to this whole layer, which can be handy for different things, because the layer could be, let's say the matte effect is on the crosshair. Now she's only visible in the confines of the crosshair, which can be a pretty cool effect. Like, you can do it for really any layer. Like, look at that, she's just stuck in there. You can have text and then have, like, pictures in the back of the text, because you have that layer set its matte to the text, and it's just that's very, very fun stuff. So I think I had to make my own, like, images here for the shape of the mats. I can't remember why I couldn't use planes. I think something about it didn't work. This was more ideal. So I have these, like, images here. This image right here is actually on here just with 0% opacity, and every layer in here has its matte set to that shape, so it won't appear outside of it. These black bars kind of just cover up the transition points. Yes, you can see, like, at the transition points is, like, maybe a little bit of a line where they don't quite meet up. So you can actually change, like, it's only, these layers are now only visible in this section here, and it gets a little bit weird. So, like, these name bars are, like, fully going out, but they're set to only be visible inside that shape. And I think this, like, circle in the background is not set to a matte, so it's kind of in both. So I'm pretty positive I used the matte effect again right here. I've got 2 planes, one on each side. These assets are masked to, or set to that matte. These assets are set to this matte. And then their transparency is keyframed, so they go invisible. The other assets come in, which are matted to this side and this side. I use mattes for a lot of stuff. Anything like this, set matte effect, boom, that's how you get it. We're gonna take a look at the crosshair, because a lot of people asked about how I made this crosshair here. So it's like this image right here I put together, and it animates a little bit, and I just use this file in all the shots. And so all this animation's done in the file, and then I just keyframe the overall rotation. I think it might be these first few layers here. So there's our crosshair, actually. Yeah, perfect. So these 5 layers down here are what I used to make the crosshair. I believe they're all just plain layers. You could just, like, go in, like, I don't know, Adobe Illustrator and actually make a circle or something. I just take a new plane. So we've got this bar right here, and there's an effect called polar warp, which is surprisingly effective. Oh, how did I? Okay, we're gonna. So I didn't use plane layers. Apparently, I used text layers. Let's take a look at this one. So this one, if we turn off all the effects it has, let's turn off the polar warp. Oh, right. Okay. I see now. So here's why I used text layers. I think I just found a font that, like, had just some solid blocky dashes in it whenever you typed in a dash symbol. These are all individual dashes, and you can type letters in here. Oh, they're underscores. So these are underscores. So that way I could put a nice space in between. So it was underscores, space, underscores. And so I had that shape, and then the polar warp will affect like the whole thing. So what I did with the polar warp, let's slap a new one on there so we can troubleshoot it. You slap it on, it kind of makes it into a bit of a circle. You can change like the overall rotation of it. You can change the range, which is what I did. It can go from 0 to 100, so I think I just made it down there. And you can kind of change where like the inside radius and the outside radius, make it a bit thicker, thinner. You can invert it, that does something. And then I keyframed the rotation overall so it would slowly spin. So that's like our piece. These are slightly different sizes. Did I leave it like that in the final? Oh my god. I think I did. Oh my god. Oh, that's gonna hurt me. This gap is slightly smaller than that one. Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I'm gonna cry. I made another circle, same concept, just more spaces and more underscores, and the polar warp. What? That one's messed up too. That one is thick, bro. Thick. I guess I didn't notice. I worked on this for 3 months. So yeah, and then I keyframed the rotation of that so it would spin slowly in the other direction. And then I made a new circle, no gaps, just fully underscores, I guess, and it doesn't need to be keyframed, it's just there. And then I made 2 lines. Apparently I just made them with underscores and not planes, which, bro, I guess, am I right? So that's how I have my crosshair piece. And some people also asked about some of the backgrounds. My usual strategy for like, it kind of depends on the background, but like this one right here, and like I'm making these videos just like, these are just kind of personal projects. They're not for anybody. They're not being sold or anything. So that's kind of why I just use Danganronpa assets. It's a Danganronpa intro, just kind of use what I got. So the background, I think actually, if we take off the effects that are on it, that's actually what I slapped on there. Really, I just needed some various shapes and colors to work with. So you just slap that on there, slap that background on there, slap on a hue shift, change the color, and then this effect, I don't know if it's a pro effect or not, it's called heat distortion. It just kind of, if you really mess it up a bit, it just kind of blurs everything and it slightly wobbles. It's meant to imitate like fire heat effects, but if you put it on like an image and really crank it up, you just have this like nice blurred lava lamp kind of moving. This one doesn't move very much, but some other shots you got a little bit of wobble in the background. It's always heat distortion for me. So here's Mikan's shot. The background it does have some effects. Let's turn them off. It's Strawberry House from Danganronpa 2, but we just slapped on a hue shift, that heat distortion, and then it didn't blur it the way I wanted, so I did a manual lens blur on it. And then you just have some purple blobs. Somebody also asked how I made the video without spoiling too many things about the game, and really I just tried my best, and I didn't quite do good enough, so we're not going to talk about the accidental spoiler right here. Let me tell you, it's been a while since I've played Ultra Despair Girls, okay? I forgot you don't know her name right away. But good news is, it's only there for like a second, and then bam, the camera zooms in, it's gone. Don't worry about it, right? What? Didn't hear it from me. Maybe I'll make a new version of the video just with that removed. I'm not gonna re-upload my video. I'll just put that in a little Google Drive or something for people who want to show it to their friends. A lot of people said that I shouldn't have showed Shuichi without his hat. I was in the middle of making the video, and I was like, oh god, he doesn't have his hat. I should fix that. And then realized you can't see the thing that his hat hides. It's never visible, actually, even at the very end. It's just perfectly hidden. Oh, actually, no, he's wearing his hat there. Never mind. So really, I just thought, doesn't really matter, does it? Some people said I shouldn't have included this shot of him, but by the point of Danganronpa V3, nearly every character has like a specialty shot of them, like close up, so I'm not too worried about it. I also definitely wanted to avoid, I feel bad for this, but in the Danganronpa 2 characters, you don't have Big Byakuya. And that's because if I were to show Byakuya twice in the same game opening, like, it doesn't make sense for any character to show up twice, have two introductions. If I did that, it would spoil the fact that they are two different characters and not, in fact, the same character. Because remember, this is meant to be like one game opening, theoretically, for like one game. So it doesn't make sense to have a character be introduced with his name twice. If I were to go back and redo it, I would put Big Byakuya in. I would put him in. You know. Okay, let's enhance. I would put him maybe in that silhouette back there, just to kind of give a hint towards him. Some people. Oh yes. Some people asked about the like kind of grungy effect that's over everything. You'll notice over most of the video, it's kind of like this kind of flashing, like cloudy dirt kind of look. It's not always that visible, but it is nearly always in the video. And you'll notice little pieces of text. You can see like little parts of words kind of showing up. I don't remember the exact process. Oh, here are the words. You want to see the letters? We've got ultimate, execution, murder, trial, despair, hope, and Danganronpa. So these are the words that you see flashing across the screen randomly. This is like the original comp. I think I made this comp and then moved. Did I do like a set matte thing? I made like the clouds separate. It was like fractal noise, some other stuff. And then I took the two together. And yeah, I did a set matte. So the text only shows up like in the clouds. It's like its matte is set to the clouds. So it only shows up in the cloudy bits. And that's why there are multiple composite shots. I had to kind of make it all separate. So yeah, I slapped the grunge layer on everything. So some people might watch the video and say, oh, there's some secret text. But pretty sure that just says execution. It's the same grunge layer. I gotta be honest, it's the same 20 seconds of grunge layer looping over the whole video. But because different parts are visible in different shots, it's really hard to tell that it's just looping the same thing because it's so chaotic. In the opening shot, I used a 3D model of the Danganronpa Trial Grounds that I got online somewhere. I think it was from like the PSP version or something. But like there's a little like graphical errors like this that would be really hard to fix. I don't know what caused it because I didn't make the model, I didn't texture it, I just kind of brought it in and messed with the lighting. So it's like there's just a line there. I don't know what to do about that. Sometimes the easiest thing is to just cover it up. In this little flash right here, I went to all the trouble of taking Hope's Peak here and masking around the entire outer edge. Because I wanted some parallax between the school and the sky. You can see when the camera pans in, the clouds kind of come up from behind it, but it lasts for 0.0001 seconds, and you can barely tell. And I really went all out on that mask, too. So that was a lot of tracing that I probably didn't need to do. I need to get a better mic. You can hear all my disgusting mouth sounds. I need to, like, ugh. Like a pop filter on here. That's right, I should get a pop filter. I have a confession to make. In Byakuya's segment right here, you see this little silhouette in the background. There was a little bit of discussion as to who was in the background here. Some people were like, oh, I think it's just Byakuya's back-facing sprite. And then there was another comment that said it was Byakuya's dead little sister. And I was too afraid to correct them. And a lot of people seem to believe it. But I have to be real with you, it is just Byakuya's back-facing sprite back there. He's just chilling back there. I just thought it looked cool. The fire in Celeste's background used to look more like fire. It was just orange and bright. And then I realized that might have been a little too spoilery. So I changed the color and also added these card shapes in the background, which didn't used to be there. Her thing was just fire, and I was like, whoops. Hifumi's scene is probably the most basic, and I'm sorry, that's because I don't really care for him that much. But his background is, I believe, what was it? Is it Celeste's room or his room? Whenever the murder was being planned that he was involved in, that's what's going on there. A lot of people watched Toko's bit and read the text in the background. Once people noticed the words lorem ipsum in the background of Toko's segment, they said, oh, just some lazy filler text. Well, guess what? I'm not that lazy. I didn't just type in some default filler text. This is actually a Wikipedia article about filler text. So, big brain. I'm pretty sure the same text is also on this piece of paper here. It's just so blurred it doesn't really matter what it says. A lot of people did manage to pick up on the fact that Sonia's background was some like kind of murdery looking stuff. I mean, there's blood back there. Doesn't seem right. With the old heat distortion effect, take off that lens blur. Let's take off that set matte. Reveal that bad boy. It's like the genocide Jack murder subjects, murder victims. Cause Sonya's all into like serial killers and stuff. That sounds like a joke, but she actually is. That was a plot point of her character, so that's why that's back there, because I didn't really know what else to put back there. A lot of people in this shot right here, as we transition into our boy, noticed that there's a little hint of Nagito hidden back there. I actually didn't mean to include him at all, because by default he's hidden by this thing, and I thought, I don't want to show him, that seems a little spoilery. But then I later decided to animate the background in that particular fashion, and didn't really occur to me that made him visible for a second. But you know what? I'll take it. I like it. Sure. I'm pretty sure the sheet music was also just I found online. It's just Claire de Lune in it. I haven't seen a single comment about these planets, but my god, did that take a while to put together, having them orbit around each other, having this orbit this and that orbit that and that orbit that. Took a little while. Pretty happy with it. Some people were curious as to why I put certain characters together, other than the fact that, like, for example, these two look awesome together. Sometimes it was just a thematic thing, and sometimes I just didn't have enough space in the video. I just called this the Cobweb Gang. I mean, well, she's got cobwebs all over her. He likes old museum stuff, cobwebs. Bam, gotcha. There they are. They look awesome together, though, don't they? Now, a few people saw Ryoma's segment and thought, oh my god, there's somebody behind him. Who is that? It's kind of just Gonta from the last shot. I just didn't move him out of the way. Oops. Anyways, I think that's a decent enough point as any to cut off my video. I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff, and you might have some more questions. Just leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to respond to any and every question in the comments on this video. Anything you want to know. I swear I'm not a professional, but I do want to be, so I'm learning as much as I can. Now, this is kind of important. If you want to follow everything I make, not everything I make is going to end up on this channel, because if I do a commission, for example, that's going to be uploaded wherever the person I did it for decides to put it, and it won't be a personal project on my channel. I actually have a playlist just for videos that don't go on my channel that I still edited. I'll link that in the description. It's a bit sparse at the moment, but anything I make in the future that doesn't go on my channel will be dropped in that playlist. If you really want to just be up to date on the stuff I do, highly recommend following me on Twitter. Any future endeavors I work on will be talked about there, I promise. As of right now, there's a commission I'm about to start working on, so it might be a while before I can make any new personal projects for my own channel. Also, quick shout out to the fact that I have a Patreon, but I'm aware we're in the middle of a pandemic, so don't spend money if you don't want to, but if you want to help me out financially in any way, shape, or form, I do have a Patreon, and I'll try and post little bonus things there. Anyways, I think that about covers everything I wrote down in my little notepad, so I'm just gonna call it here. I hope you all have a wonderful day. If you want to edit like this, do it. Start now. It doesn't matter how bad it is, just start doing it. Because if you don't, it's like writing. If you don't, you can't be a writer if you don't write. If you just think about writing all the time, it's not really gonna do much. I mean, it helps a little bit, but like you have to actually do some stuff. Download Hitfilm Express. Do it right now and just make some things move. Download some images from the internet, keyframe them around, make them move. Mess around a bit. Look up the tutorials. They have stuff on everything. Look up their beginners tutorials. If you're stuck in quarantine, it could just be very rewarding to just make some stuff, even if it's bad. The fun thing about like actually working in a real program like this is you get to really make everything yourself. There aren't as many like presets and things. You choose what moves where. You have control. So I wish you all the best. Peace. Am I gonna end it with peace? How do you end a video? I'm just gonna end it. I'm probably just gonna cut it here. I might have already cut it. You probably won't hear this. I think I'm just talking to myself.